What's happening, y'all? It's your boy C, and today I'm gonna take you through a breakdown of how I made the beat for Steak and Shrimp 2. So what's so dope about this beat for real is like the sample makes it sound complex. The sample fills up a lot of space, but it's a real simple composition. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes as a producer, you can kind of overproduce. You can kind of go overboard, trying to fill so much space in the beat. And when you start with something like the loop that I started with on this beat, it kind of pulls you away from like trying to fill up the space. The space is already full, so what you're doing is like polishing around what you already have. You kind of like just want to add that little nuance to catch people's attention around the loop. So I started with this right here, and this is how it sound originally. And this. So that part became like the chorus or whatever. That became the hook. And then I just pitched it up a little bit. Like a stereo shaper there to kind of make it feel a little fuller. And just this EQ to get rid of the high frequencies and the low frequencies. So after that, it's all about drums from there on. I like to start with either my kick and snare pattern or the cymbals. This time around, I started with the kick and the snare. And so it's kind of it's pretty much that all the way through. And then of course a snare on the 2 and the 4. And I kind of keep that all the way through except into the next 8 bars, the second part of the verse. I switch it up just a little bit. Just as a turnaround for the beat. So then I added my cymbals. I just a regular closed hat and an open hat. So usually like at the start of my 4-bar patterns, I like to have like a little ride. Just because it kind of tells the listener like, hey, this is a new 4 bars. And it helps me when I'm writing because when I go back to write, I enter like this part of like song making as a producer. So when I turn around to write the actual rhymes, that's like a reminder to kind of like either to like change up my flow a little bit or to maybe change the tone in my vocals or whatever. Like it's one of those subtle reminders that like, hey, we got 16 bars, we got to keep the energy going the full 16 bars. So at the beginning of every 4 bars, I just had this little ride. Hold on. Simple. So a lot of times I like to do my beats in like 4 to 8 bar phrases, and usually I come in. I like this, like the real vintage sounding percussion. So like you know, cowbell or rim shots, stuff like that. I like a lot of the real vintage sounding percussion from like the UGK 36 Mafia stuff. So that's usually where I go next. So here's just I think this is a cowbell and a clog. So it's just like a just like to fill up the beat song. A lot of times, like, you don't have to actually play new instruments in the beat. You don't have to like add unnecessary synths, especially when you're working with a loop. You could just kind of build on top of the drums to get a really good sound. And so I'll let you hear what the drums sound like. All of the percussion sounds like together. In the hook, I kind of play the ride a little bit more. I just feel like it just sounded better. I think I actually changed this after the vocals. So after I wrote the vocals, I went back and made the ride more prevalent in the hook. So like, to give it that bounce, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's all about the bounce. So the next thing I added, which is probably the most important, is the bass line. And it just depends on like how I feel, whether or not I use a synth bass or 808. So this time around I use a synth bass. I ducked the bass with a limiter, so that when the kick hits, the bass dips, but they're actually playing at the same time, but the kick is hitting on the bass, giving it like an accent for when that particular tone comes in for the synth bass. I'll play just the bass and the kick so you can hear what I'm talking about. You can hear it, like you can hear like every time it dip, when the bass when the kick hit, the bass dips. And then I got like a different pattern for the chord for the hook. Same thing. You can hear it ducking every time the kick hits. You can hear the bass ducking. It's a really good way to kind of make both come through together. Like when I first started making beats, I had a really hard time at figuring out how to put the kick and the 808 in at the same time and kind of get the right groove and the sound I was looking for. and they get that knock. You know what I'm saying? Like I want somebody to be riding down the street, you know, in the old school with the 12s in the trunk, and it hit like every time the one come, it hit. You know what I'm saying? Every time that kick come in, it hit. You feel me? And I spent a lot of time just trying to figure out how to like perfect placing that sound in my production. And I think I'm doing all right. I think I'm doing pretty good. So, and the bass line, like I had to make the bass line a little different just to go with the sample. I'll let you hear it with the sample. Yeah, so, and that's pretty much it. Oh, I almost forgot. This sound right here is, if you grew up in the 2000s, in the late 90s, in the early 2000s, this sound right here is like synonymous with like snap music and crunk music. And anytime I can kind of like slide this sound in, I do so, but it's so subtle. If you don't know that it's there, you almost miss it. But it's the chant. Yo, I heard that sound so much listening to like Lil Jon and Trillville and Lil Scrappy, and I mean you name it, whoever, like Crime Mob, whoever. And I just think it's dope to like be able to use that sound in like newer production, because I take a lot of cues from that time period, that late 90s, early 2000s down south hip hop. I take a lot of cues from that time period. So it's always dope to kind of like go backwards and use elements from that, but it be fresh and new, you know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much it. I think that's everything. That's pretty much it. So, you know, when I put it all together, and the verse is this. Hold on. To the hook, everything together just sounds like this. And that's pretty much it, man. That's how I made the beat to Steak and Shrimp. Shout out to everybody that's been listening to it, you know, streaming it or whatever. I appreciate y'all, you know, it really means a lot. And, you know, I'm going hard for this joint, man. We're just going to keep pushing, you know, get as many people to hear this joint as possible, you know. And, yeah, man, just keep playing it, keep streaming it. I got some new music coming for y'all soon, like real soon. And, you know, until next time, be safe, be positive, be blessed. Always remember your story is important. And peace.
Bitch, I got the belt. Ho, I keep it real. All I know is take care of my folk. Get them dollar bills.